Perfect, lovely. Firstly, thank you everyone that's here to join us today. My name's Stephen Lester. I work for a company called Paragon Customer Communications. And we're just going to talk a little bit around omni-channel communication and how we see it affecting loyalty. I'm going to start a little bit first about Paragon because that's my marketing team have told me I absolutely have to tell you about the company. So Paragon's a global communication business. And what does that mean? We span a huge amount of services across our clients, everything from point of sale for Procter & Gamble all the way through to running regulatory communications for Santander. Today I'm going to bring it a little bit more narrow and just talk specifically around some of the trends that we're seeing in omni-channel communications and how we've utilised technology for some of our brands to change the way that they interact with their customers. So I'm going to start by just setting the scene a little bit. Oh, they put a lovely build on it. Marketing's far too clever for me. So I'll just build it. From our perspective, we deal with a lot of brands. And over the time, we've seen a real trend. The biggest trend, and I guess you as organisations, depending on who you work for, would have seen it as well, right? Lots and lots of channels, lots and lots of ways to communicate with people. One of the biggest trends we saw was around multi-channel communication. And there's a big difference we found between multi-channel communication and omni-channel communication, and we'll touch a little bit on that today. Multi-channel communication was a big rush we found with our customers to use every channel available to them. So, you know, the more channels that came out, SMS, email, WhatsApp, Facebook, everything, they wanted to flood the customer. They wanted to use as many channels as possible without really understanding how to interact or how to actually drive the value through the communication and the consistency that you need in order to build brand and build loyalty with your customers. As the world's kind of evolved and you know, you've got some phenomenal technologists here today. Paragon itself isn't a software provider, it's not a SaaS company. We fundamentally partner with some of the best technology companies in the world. Some of them are actually sitting in this audience, so I have to be very careful. To actually listen and deliver on our customers' problems. So we don't come at this really from a technology first. I'm not going to sit here and tell you Salesforce is better than Adobe. We look at this very much from a customer problem perspective, and the bit that we really feel passionate about is the data. And the bit that we've seen fundamental shifting from the multi-channel strategy that we saw probably kind of 5 years ago to a more mature omni-channel strategy that we're seeing coming through at the moment is the understanding and the use of the data that sits behind it. So that's what I'm going to talk about a little bit today, and so some of the value that we can drive through that. So for us, what's the importance of omni-channel, right? So I guess you got the obligatory kind of stats that we pull off of all the websites, right? But ultimately, it's a competitive landscape out in the marketplace. Businesses are always looking for that little edge, that way to engage, the way to get the repeat orders, and I'm sure you've heard a lot of it from other talks that you've had today. But we see, right, a big shift in customers and engagement, certainly in loyalty and retention when we start talking about churn and drop-off with customers, that those customers that actually integrate their touch points, understand their customers, drive a consistency through the data and through the channels that they've chosen, actually see great increases in the retention and spend through their customers. This is a phenomenal statistic, right? We actually see this. 81% of customers are more likely to spend through strong loyalty and advocacy programs. It's a big driver within what we do within our organisation to to push loyalty programs, and I'm going to talk a little bit around two that we've done recently. One for Avanti, which is the first time a railway company has introduced and launched a loyalty program, and one for Bupa, which in a very, very competitive marketplace around private healthcare, how loyalty has helped them reduce some of the churn. So, from a Paragon perspective or a Paragon DCX perspective, the thing that we hold dearest and truest to ourselves really is around the data. The data that companies have, the way that you can integrate data now, and actually all the different touch points that you have within your organization. So for us, data is king. The channels, the engagement, the strategy, the proposition that sits above that are all fundamental points, but unless you have the data, none of it works. Through the use of data, what we find is you can actually start to drive the insights. You can drive the test and learn strategies. We talk and you'll hear a lot about hyper-personalisation and things like that through this whole event for the next couple of days. So those things all come from the ability to pull the data together, analyse the data, actually draw the insights from the data that you've got, and start to integrate that back into the different channels, the social media channels that you've got, in order to actually understand the customers and the behaviour. So we've kind of touched on this really, that for us the data is king. So I'm going to skip over that one and try and move on. I think AI, I have to have a slide in here about AI. I'm sure throughout the whole of this event you're going to hear a lot about AI. AI will change the industry, we already know that. We understand that AI is going to change marketing, it's going to change marketing strategies. The bit that we are genuinely seeing a big uptake on around the use of AI, certainly within the data, is the ability to process the data, huge data sets, and understand what customers are doing, all the different interactions they're going. We also understand that this is not a mature product at the moment. I know that everyone's talking about how they're using AI, where they're integrating AI, but I think, you know, certainly from a Paragon's perspective, there's a lot of work that needs to be done around how you introduce AI into a business. There's a huge amount of work to be understood around the governance of AI, how that impacts your customers, the privacy, how you actually use AI in a very, very responsible way. So it's something that we're treading extremely carefully with. So the technology's there, and I know that people are quick on the uptake to understand where it forms, where it sits within their organisation. If I turn the lens on Paragon specifically and how we're introducing AI, AI very much helps our organisation from an operational perspective. We have huge, huge amounts of data. The bit that we actually haven't really cracked, so we can build LLMs and we can integrate that, but actually responsibly, how does that impact the data that we govern? How does that impact GDPR? How does that impact our data privacy? And actually, what does that allow us to do within our organisation? This is a very much an evolving part of our business and our understanding. And it's not one that, I have to be honest, I think we understand fully at this moment in time. There's a real understanding and a real conversation to be had around what you can do and what you should do when it comes to the use of AI within your organisation. And also, depending on your brand advocacy, you know, what do you lose by using AI throughout your organisation? Do you lose that human touch? Do you lose that kind of personal advocacy that comes through from your brand? So we do absolutely see AI playing a pivotal role over the next 2, 3, 4 years. We think there'll be a maturity. I think there's got to be a huge understanding around the governance and the complexity that comes with introducing something like AI. But there are a lot of organisations here today that will talk to you around how they're introducing AI into their technology stack. I think depending if you're here as a brand or if you're here as a supplier, you really need to kind of look at how you introduce it and what that actually means to your customers. So, just going to talk a little bit around Bupa. I'm not sure how much you know about Bupa, but Bupa is a private healthcare in the UK. One of the largest problem statement that we have with Bupa, or the problem statement that Bupa came with us, first year engagement is actually very easy with healthcare. There's a lot of competitors in this marketplace that offer very, very good rates on year one. They offer great incentives, great voluntary programs. The challenge with the private healthcare sector is actually year two, year three, it's an insurance for fundamental reasons. And actually what they challenged us with was, how can we reduce down our year one churn, and how can we actually add some value back into the Bupa scheme, or being a member of Bupa, outside of the phenomenal service obviously that they offer their customers. So what we actually did is we looked at their customer base, we looked at their competitors, and we actually came up with a loyalty scheme for them. Using the technology that's out there, we actually worked out, using the data, what their customer base looks like, where their high points of churn were, what their customer advocacy was going to be, and created a very, very personalised loyalty scheme. The personalised loyalty scheme gives you rewards based on your membership, your longevity within it. The personalisation comes down from the data that they hold on you, so your age, your demographic, what schemes that you have with them, surveys that we sent out to engage with the customers around the injuries and what they like to do in their spare time. And what we actually did was build out a very, very personalised loyalty scheme for them around benefits and rewards. We built out strong email communications and other communication channels with them over the period of time. When we first got into this with Bupa, the mentality certainly around insurance was leave them alone, right? Most people forget about they've got insurance. If they don't use it, it auto-renews. We wanted to turn that on its head a little bit and actually look to engage people, show them the benefit of having an account with them, having that insurance policy with them, and actually show the benefits and loyalty that can come with it. So what we developed was a personalised loyalty scheme. What we did was we actually increased their engagement with the brand through first year journeys. We introduced things like surprise and delights. We took those surveys and we actually drove up their engagement. So when we talk about click-through, that's click-through to the portal, physical engagement with the loyalty program. And we reduced their churn in year one by over 3%, which doesn't seem a lot, right, but drove a huge amount of repeat revenue. It then built up brand advocacy and allowed them to add extra services that they cross-sold in, so single insurance to family insurance and things like that. We use some really, really cool technology partners to do this, and it's an ongoing program now. So Bupa have now built up their database, which they then use outside of that. So we have the compliance, the GDPR, the consent that goes with the marketing database for the loyalty program. And then we use that actually to drive further marketing campaigns out. Conscious of time. I'm going to jump onto the second case study. Avanti West Coast. So a TOC, train operator. First of its kind that wanted to drive a loyalty program. They actually came out to market with the idea that they wanted to create their own loyalty program. train operators are under a huge amount of pressure, as you can imagine. Where they struggle is direct contact with their customers. A lot of people go through aggregators, Trainline, people like that. What Avanti really wanted to do was build up a brand advocacy and actually reward people for using their train services. Obviously the commuters is a great one, but actually, train operators have to operate outside of those times as well. The big challenge that they have is actually weekend travel, family travel. So what they actually wanted to do was build out a loyalty with them. You've got to bear in mind that with Avanti that they actually didn't have a loyalty program. So we had to go out and re-permission all of their databases. We had to build out interconnectivity between all of their customer touch points in order to actually glean the information about who uses Avanti, why they use Avanti, and how to actually build a loyalty program. What we came up with was a 3-tier loyalty program based on use of it, peak times, fine, multiple uses, and then leisure. Leisure is a big driver for the train operators. Technology we chose was Salesforce for this one. We used their unified data, and then we used their API management system to integrate back out into all of their data points and their data channels, including Facebook, so that we could start picking out some of the social media and their sentiment analysis as well. There's a lot of negativity when it comes to train operators. When it works well, it works well, but when it doesn't work well, it doesn't work well. So being able to actually take that data, use that as a temperature test, which then actually influences the communication channel that we push out, influences the sentiment and the content that we push out in real time. So it allows you to change the tone, the content. I don't really like builds, just FYI. So if we take you through where we were, we had to create a sign-up process for Avanti. We actually took their databases and we actually built a brand new database for them, for customers of over 220,000 engaged people. We created a very, very simple, easy to use sign-up process. We gave away some very simple invitations in order to add some value exchange back into them. But the whole point was we needed to build a database that had the right consent, the right preference. As you can imagine, they actually had a lot of information on people, but did they have the right consent? Did they have the right option to market to these people and actually talk to them in the way that we wanted to? So we used legitimate interest to go out. We re-permissioned a lot of the databases that they had. We integrated touch points into existing marketing teams, marketing databases, and we actually created a brand new database with consent and engagement and advocacy of over 220,000 new customers. We created a threshold program for them, silver, gold and platinum, and the idea was to drive that loyalty through. We engaged with them through different mediums, and we pushed out messages, programs, content, and rewards to entice people to start to use the travel service and the train service. I'll fast forward as we go through this. As we've built the database and the ecosystem and the integrations and the touch points, what this is now allowing us to do is now integrate actually into platforms. The whole idea of this is now to take their data, their customer engagement and advocacy to a new level. One of the things that Avanti want to pride themselves on is customer service. They want to use their program and loyalty program to drive their customer service. And one of the key things that they want to be able to do is train assistance. So actually use their loyalty program to understand when people need assistance on the platforms, using the data and the loyalty programs as people enter into the train stations, using the app that we've got and tying that in with the RFID technology that exists within the stations, to actually actively talk to people as they go through their journey. Do they need assistance, ramps, wheelchairs? If there's delays on the trains, so they actually want to take this to a whole new level, which is where we're going to expand out the use of the Omnichannel and the real value that Omnichannel brings to your organisation, if you put data at the heart of what you're doing. So, I'm sure we made that sound really easy, and you could all do it tomorrow, right? It's genuinely not, and I'm sure most of the people in this room will know that. So, big challenges ahead, right? Data privacy concerns. People are obviously getting more and more nervous about the way that we use their data, how we collect data. We find loyalty programs are a really, really good way to do that. It's upfront, there's a really good value exchange, and we find that people buy into that. The days of just taking people's data off of websites, buying lists, you know, that's not an ethical use of data anymore. So that's a challenge, and it's a challenge that we actually expect to get harder. New laws passing, so actually the use of data and how you do it is going to prove more difficult. But what we actually do see is most businesses have a lot of data, right? The challenge that you actually face is how do you get to that data. Avanti was a good example of that. So actually, did they have huge amounts of data? Bupa, very similar. Yes. Did they have the right permissions to use it? Probably not. By using a data-first omni-channel strategy, what it allows you to do is inwardly look at your business, find out what data you hold, what consent that you've already got, and how you actually link that ecosystem together to be able to truly talk to your customer in the way that they want. One of the bigger challenges that we genuinely see is AI. So I pretty much have a conversation once every day with a new brand and a new organisation that wants to know how I'm going to use AI to help their business drive their business forward. AI, as with all technology, solves a problem. The challenge that I genuinely see is people are rushing to a solution with AI. No one's taken the time to actually understand how you implement AI, what that actually means to your business, the operational change, the process change, the cultural change that it brings, and actually the regulatory change. At the moment, the technology is further ahead than the regulators. At some point, I am assuming that the regulators will catch up. There will be a huge piece that will say how that we can use the AI and how we responsibly and ethically introduce AI into the data and the technologies and how we engage with our customers. So, not a surprise, and I think I'm pretty much on time. Omnichannel for us is vital, especially when we start talking around loyalty. But I think, you know, depending on what you do as an organisation and the technologists that you're here to talk to, understanding the data and how you use it to drive a true omni-channel experience is key to the success of any brands. And ultimately, if you ask me where I would put all my investment, and if I take what I do as a business, where I've put all my investment, is in my integrated ecosystem, right? My API strategy, right? How do I connect the data that I've got? How do I connect all the disparate data sources, all the massive amounts of technology that all of my different departments have gone out and bought? How do I culturally bring together the benefits of sharing that technology, that strategy, that data, in order to drive the best customer experience that I have? So that is my final takeaway, and I think that leaves a bit of time for questions. Hi. I think they've got a microphone. I think we're... Just down here.
Hi, on the first example you gave
Yes.
for the loyalty program, which vendors did you choose? Because on the second example you used Salesforce.
Yes. Okay. So for Bupa, we used Binder for its to pull together all of the artworking and design it. We actually built the website ourselves. And then we actually used .digital to drive all of the communications out of the back of the database. The database that we actually built from a single customer view perspective was Snowflake. So that one's a real pull together of lots of different technologies. So that's where we come from a business perspective. Avanti they were very much around, they wanted an entire ecosystem. So Salesforce from a qualification perspective made perfect sense for that. For Bupa, it was more tactical and it was certainly more organic, should we say, with them. So what we had to do with Bupa, first of all, was build out a digital system for them that allowed them to actually communicate electronically with people. So we used .digital for that. They didn't have the infrastructure to build and store the data that we were collecting, so we used Snowflake for that. And then actually we built the front end for them. So it was kind of like a headless CMS, and we used Binder from a DAM perspective to feed all of the imagery back up into it. We went out and found, we used a third party to support us to go and find all of the affiliates that we brought in there. So as you saw, Nike and people like that. So we used a company called Cherry. And that's where we work really closely with vendors and suppliers to find the best provider. Avanti, top-down Salesforce, to be honest. Hi. Oh, I could do that.
Hello, thank you very much for this great presentation. In terms of omnichannel, are you able to tell us which channel tend to actually convert and also create loyalty, whether it's email or whether it's... Are you able to know which one are most effective?
Sorry, say that again. It's really...
Can you hear me? Yeah, sorry. Are you able to tell us which channels are the most effective to actually create loyalty?
That's a brilliant question, to be honest. I think this is really where the omni-channel. So when we started really with the kind of multi-channel, right? The driver with multi-channel, if I'm really honest, was more about the business need rather than the consumer needs. Omni-channel allows you to flex, right? So we find a mixture based on age, based about demographics, all of those things become quite important. Email for me, cost effective, ROI, it will always be key. SMS, 100% open rate, so depending again on the communications and notifications for SMS, phenomenal. It's got 100% open rate. Can you drive a call to action from an SMS? Different problem, right? There's lots and lots of different channels. Ultimately, with Avanti, the idea was to use the channels to drive engagement. Email is their absolute primary, but always trying to push the communication engagement back through the app. So email became rewards, became vouchers, it became engagement, surprise and delight, anniversaries, but always the call to action was to go and retrieve through the app. So it really comes down to the different brands that we deal with, and this is where omnichannel becomes really important to us, because there will always be more channels. You know, we're now seeing a real big uptake in WhatsApp for business. It's huge, right? Do I recommend it for loyalty at the moment? Probably not, but could we? And this is where really the data will tell you the answer. So having the ability to execute the channel, take the data back, test and learn it, because again, you've got different character sets, you've got different abilities to put artwork in messaging. Same difference with email and SMS. So actually some of it will be around what is the message you're trying to get through to them, and then pick the right channel for it. So primary, we find email for loyalty is brilliant. SMS is great for the notification side of it. And ultimately, you're always trying to drive loyalty into action. So a call to action, which drives them back into an e-commerce site, right? A loyalty site or an application that drives that rewards recognition. Oh, I'm out of time. Sorry. Perfect. Wonderful. Thank you very much.